Becoming your own influence is literally the key to breaking free from self-sabotage and just getting out of your own way. It's literally just embracing your true potential and who you've always been meant to be, destined to be. It's about unlocking your true power and really creating the necessary change that your dreams require. If you are truly ready to stop the cycle of doubt and fear and just start making the shift to unlock your true power and your true potential, stick around, because in order to unlock your true power, you need to Welcome back to Just Like Magic with Julia. I hope that all of you are doing wonderful. Today's video, we are going to be getting into some things. This is for all of my girls who are looking to become unstoppable and to really just start embracing their true selves. And maybe you're ready to take a step or two out of your own shell. I have been watching this YouTube channel. I don't know her name, but she talks so much about staying in this cocoon, and like sometimes butterflies need to be in their cocoon for a while and then break out of it in order to really push themselves and learn to fly. Basically, your strength comes from your cocoon. But girls, we cannot stay in our cocoon, aka our comfort zone, forever. We have to learn to push ourselves. We have to learn to break free from some comfort zone. Truthfully, sometimes we can really get in our own ways and we can self-sabotage sometimes, not purposely, but just because the fear can be so intense. Which is why in today's video, I will be talking about decisions that you can make and how to transform your mindset. But first, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, most importantly, to this channel so that you're always in the loop when there's some new videos and when there's some new tea and topics to discuss, so you never miss a beat. Okay, so let's get into it. First, I want to talk a little bit about why I chose this specific topic to cover today. I think all of us as a collective live in this age of social media of heavy influence, that sometimes comparison can be second skin. In my last video, I actually spoke about 5 sacrifices you need to get on your own authentic destined path that you need to make in order to manifest your wildest dreams. So if you have not seen that video, I highly suggest that you go check that out because it ties into a little bit about what we will be discussing today. Hint, hint, one of those sacrifices was comparison. Comparison, I feel today is stronger than ever because we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we literally walk outside and everything is now an ad. And while I'm not even gonna lie, I love a good influencer, I think it's really important to understand that while we can look at other people's lives and be inspired and genuinely appreciate their aesthetics and the way that they do things, we also have unique paths. And even if you're someone who's trying to attain a dream that someone else you know, whether it's in real life or your immediate circle or someone you genuinely just look up to, like an influencer or celebrity has, you also have your unique path to that dream. Sometimes we use comparison as a very negative tool because we think that if someone else has something that we want, we have to maybe copy and paste the same way that they got there or got what we want in order to also attain it. Comparison will always make you feel like you have to conform to like this one way of doing things. But in reality, if you think about it, so many people are living or have aspired to live the same type of dream, but have put their secret sauce to the plate. They've brought in something different to the plate. They've been on their own unique journey, which has influenced the way that they experience their dream. And in this video, we're going to be talking about why it's important for you to embrace your own secret sauce and what you can bring to the plate for your own dreams. We're also going to be talking about why it's important to have tunnel vision on your own path, because when we're looking to the left and we're looking to the right all the time, it takes away from having complete tunnel vision on what we're doing and what we're aspiring to dream. So while comparison is definitely a sacrifice that we all definitely should make in order to manifest our dreams, I recognize that it's not all that simple and easy. So let's talk a little bit about why we even compare ourselves to one another in the first place. Believe it or not, comparison is not just a you thing, it's a we thing. Literally everyone compares, whether they tell you or not, whether they make it obvious or not, whether you know or not, they are comparing. If you really think about it, comparison really derives from survival. Way back when people needed to, hunt and do all these crazy things to survive, they used comparison as a means to improve, but they wanted to improve to survive. Nowadays, comparison has evolved into something so much bigger than just staying alive. We don't use comparison to stay alive. We use comparison to compete. We always want to be the best. We want to be this level of perfect that we create in our head. We want to be enough. We want to be accepted. So in other words, we've stopped comparing survival skills and started comparing lifestyles and personalities and interests and all of these other things that really make someone an individual person. We compare these things because we want to fit in. We want to feel some sort of validation, some sort of acceptance, some sort of belonging. We compare these things because we genuinely want to assess some sort of worth. But the issue with that is majority of the time, we feel like we have to emulate someone else's way. And nowadays, 9 out of the 10 times, that someone else will have a huge amount of people following them on social media, or a huge amount of likes, or a super aesthetic lifestyle on, TikTok. And in reality, while their videos may look amazing, while their pictures may be chef's kiss, that's a very limited part of their life that they're showing on social media. Social media is the place where people go to truly show highlights. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are influencers that definitely share and are vulnerable, and I'm not talking about them. It's really important to understand that, because while they're sharing a very small, limited piece of their day or life, we're thinking that it's actually something that is achievable or something that just looks one way to be accepted, when in reality, it's not true. And then that leads us to morph into a version of ourselves that limits who we are, limits our individuality, because now we feel like the pattern that someone else laid out is the best way to do something, or the only way to do something. And if we're not living up to that, then something must be wrong with us, or we're doing something incorrectly, or, we're just not enough. Therefore, we just need to emulate that pattern because that person is getting the praise and it just looks the best. Everyone's saying it's the best, so it just must be the best, when in reality, that just is really what works for that person. So the problem with comparison is that when you do these things, right? And those were examples on lifestyle and, just influencers, but we do it every single day. Even with our friends, we do it with our family, we do it with the people around us, literally with strangers. It's any time that someone has something that you genuinely feel like is unachievable for you. It's any time that you're assessing your own worth based off of something that someone else has. And when you do this, when you compare, you're giving away your power. You're basically handing over your energy and your confidence to an idea, because it's something that doesn't even truly exist. It's a lie. The lie that you're telling yourself is that what they have is the only form of acceptance, and that what you are isn't good enough. When you do this, you stop appreciating what you bring to the table as a unique being. Something that I really want to emphasize to all of you is that you are not missing anything. There's absolutely no changes that need to be made for you. Whatever you desire in this moment, you are enough for, just the way that you are, no matter what. No changes are needed. There's no additions that are needed, nothing. What makes you truly unstoppable is what makes you different. Now, I'm going to be so real with you for a second, because I remember a time in my life where that sentence would have really scared me. The whole, what makes you unstoppable is what makes you different. That would have invoked anxiety in me at one point in my life. And here's why. When I would hear people say that, I would feel a sense of fear, because I used to save the parts of me that made me different for the people who I loved most, for the people who I knew were safe, my closest friends, my family, because they were the most vulnerable parts of me. It felt risky to stand out. It felt risky to put myself on display and then possibly subject myself to judgment. But one thing that I learned is that people can judge you no matter what. It's a fact. And it was something that really used to invoke a lot of anxiety and fear and doubt in me. But the truth is that judgment is something that people are going to do whether you're being yourself or not. Unfortunately, we can't control what anyone thinks in their mind, what perspective they're coming from, and how they want to interpret our thoughts, feelings, actions, who we are, right? But we also can't live our life in fear of being judged, in fear of seeking validation, in fear of not being validated by people. And the truth is that, like I said, people are going to judge you no matter what. So you have two choices in life. One, sit back and fear being judged and dim yourself down and play it safe and, secretly compare yourself and never feel that true fulfillment of just being free. And by the way, that choice comes with being judged anyway. Or just live for you. You have to live for you. I know I'm making the choice for you. I'm sorry, girl. I'm sorry. I know I said it was your choice, but I lied to you, okay? You know the choice. You know the right answer, okay? I know it's hard. I know it's the answer that involves the most fear, but guess what? The most amazing things in life are on the opposite side of fear. But truthfully, the only reason why this is such a hard choice for us to make is because we have already tricked our brains into thinking that we are not good enough. The thing about our minds is the more we think something, even if it's a negative thought, we are giving more power to that thought. And so even if it's not true, even if it's just based in irrational fear, we begin to think that it's true because we begin to believe it. We associate it with the truth. I was watching this influencer the other day on YouTube, and she gave a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful description of what it's like to kind of think a thought multiple times and then find truth in that thought. And she said that it's like basically taking your finger and tracing it in sand, right? And the more that you go around that line that you're tracing, you're basically making that line deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's how our thoughts work. The more you kind of think that same thought, the more that you think it, the more it becomes rooted in who you are. And then it creates a foundation of other thoughts that, depending on whether it's negative or positive, then become negative or positive. And it breeds this whole habitual cycle. That's why it's so important to control our self-talk, but we'll get to that later. The point is that just because you think that you are not living up to a standard of perfection doesn't mean that it's actually true. Not everything that you think is true, even if it feels like it. Comparison does not get to determine your truth, even when it feels so real. But because we are always comparing ourselves to others as a way to seek acceptance and this validation, our minds have created an idea of what perfection looks like, of what success looks like, depending on who you are and who you're comparing yourself to. We may even go as far to say that when we reach this level of perfection, when we finally reach this level of success, then we'll be happy, right? Then we'll be enough. Then everything will be good. All of the negative thoughts will go away. But that's not how it works. When you get into the habit of comparing, you can have all of the things that you desire right now that you feel will take away all of the negativity. But you will still get to a point where when you get all of those things, you're going to want more because it's not going to fulfill you. It's not your vision. When you're comparing, you're not thinking about you and what you want. You're thinking about, like I said, a pattern that someone laid out for themselves, found to be successful, and then you see it as praise or acceptance, and you're just trying to emulate it in order to gain that acceptance. Make sense? You with me? But at some point, we also need to acknowledge that once we know this information and once we understand how things work, we also get to choose whether or not we continue this cycle. You're in complete control. And when we realize this, we also have to realize that truly we're the only thing standing in our own way. It's actually so crazy because when I was going on YouTube to search up other videos that covered this topic to gain perspective and research, it's so funny. I was typing in getting in your, and it was like all of these different things coming up. And some of the stuff that came up was just like getting in your car, getting in your first fight, literally getting in your cage. All of these things are popping up as I'm putting them into my search engine. And then finally I type in the word own, and it's like getting, and took out the word in, and it was like getting your own place, getting your own, boyfriend, all of these things. And then finally getting in your own way comes up. And it's so interesting because it highlighted to me like the fact that we never really want to admit that sometimes it's us, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not perfect at all. I'm guilty of getting in my own way and self-sabotaging sometimes. But at some point, we have to look at ourselves and say, okay, I know better and I have the power to change this. So what action can I actually take to make this better for myself and for me to get to where I know I'm destined to be? Once you know it, you have to act on it to change it, and the choice is yours. But don't make me come for you, because I will choose for you, and we're choosing the positive way. So I know the $1,000,000 question right now. How do we break free from this comparison? How do we stop? Well, the real glow up starts when you stop trying to be someone else. And the first biggest step that you will take towards that is understanding that whatever image or version or story of perfection that you have mustered up in that beautiful mind of yours is not actually real. I get it. Let's take a minute. Let's mourn that image, okay? Because I know that you attached a lot of things, a lot of self-worth, a lot of dreams to that image, to that story, so we can lay her to rest, RIP perfection. But we need to move on in order to blossom. The reason why we have to put old girl to rest is because we need to understand that the more pressure we put on ourselves to reach this level of perfection, the further away we actually go from feeling fulfilled and actually going after the life that we want to live. Pressure is the enemy of success. And here's why. Because when you do things from a place of pressure, you're doing it from dark motivation. If you ever have to pressure yourself to do something that you love, it's not necessarily coming from a place of actually loving it. Now, don't get me wrong. We all have things we need to do. We all have responsibilities and stuff that, yes, can feel a little pressuresome from time to time. I don't even know if that's a word. But when you're actually forcing yourself to fit a mold because you're comparing yourself to other people who fit this mold and look successful and look happy, that is a form of pressure. It's a form of social pressure and peer pressure to a certain extent. I remember a time in my life where I really was putting so much pressure on who I really wanted to become. A dream of mine has always been to be able to just provide for my family, provide for my mom, be able to, be the one who broke generational curses. And I knew that that was something that I wanted so badly, but instead of surrendering, instead of letting it go, instead of believing in myself, I started fearing that those things actually weren't possible. And so because I started fearing it, and because I wanted it so badly, I started putting pressure on me. And it made trying to attain those things not only all the more hard, but it made it miserable. Yeah, I accomplished some of those things actually, but I don't look back on those moments and think, wow, they were such joyful experiences. I did that. No, it's clouded by, where I was in that moment, and the fact that even though I attained so many amazing things, I couldn't be present. I couldn't enjoy them. To a certain extent, what good are those moments if you're not there for them truly? I also felt like certain things I was placing as perfect would then define me and define who I am as a person, when that's just so far from the truth. Letting go of this image of perfection will allow you to free yourself truly of all of these unrealistic expectations. And when you do that, you'll have space to be your authentic self. When you're your authentic self, you're operating from this place of natural energy, natural frequency. You're operating from high energy, which attracts abundance. Like I said, when I was trying to put all that pressure on myself, it was for no reason. It was for no purpose. I wasn't feeling the things that I thought I would feel when those things happened. Now that I've stopped aiming for perfection and just started aiming to be authentic and in the moment, those things feel so much more enjoyable and so much more fulfilling. Perfection is an illusion. Not one thing, not one person is actually perfect. It's just an illusion of what you think will bring you joy. We have to let that image go. In order to do so, we need to stop thinking about what perfection looks like to others and how others would validate us or determine our worth if we had this perfection. And instead of doing all of that, we need to ask ourselves, what are we actually seeking to be perfect? Is it peace? Is it authenticity? Is it alignment? Define it for yourself and let that be your guide. Not your guide to a certain lifestyle that you're gonna just end up putting pressure on as well, but guiding you to what you're really after. Because the way that you're really gonna be your own influence is truly by doing what's best for you. In order to do what's best for you, you have to reframe comparison. Comparison, unfortunately, isn't just something that's gonna disappear. We all have natural tendencies to compare, but it's how you process and perceive the comparison. For example, when you see someone who has something that you desire and maybe you don't have yet, do you find inspiration in it? Do you find admiration in it? That's okay. It's okay to find things inspiring. It's okay to find people inspiring. What's not okay is to then interpret that as something that you'll never have, or to be mean to yourself, or to talk negatively to yourself. Highlighting what you admire about others can be such an amazing way to think about how you can create your own version of that for you. You can still admire others. You can still gain inspiration in the things around you, the people around you. A huge version of inspiration, a huge source of inspiration for me has always been Nicki Minaj. I love that woman down. She's literally one of the best women in the world, in my opinion. And I always find it inspiring that she chooses to inspire other women with her music, her talent, her industry. But that doesn't mean I have to emulate everything that she does into my own life, right? There are certain things that I admire and that I channel when I need some more confidence because I think she's super confident. But I don't need to do what she does in order to have the certain things that I admire about her the most. We can look at other people and truly find admiration in some of the qualities that they have, and then think about why we love those things and see if we want to create our own version of that for ourselves and how we can do that. In order to be able to do that, though, you need to have self-compassion for yourself. Now, I know at some point I'm going to make a whole other video just talking about self-compassion because y'all need to start being nicer to yourself. But self-compassion is when you monitor the way that your own internal voice speaks about yourself, thinks about yourself, and it's basically like this idea of being your own best friend. It's so funny because there was a time when I was in therapy and I would say certain things about myself that weren't always the nicest. And my therapist would always ask me, like, would you say this about your best friends if she, was going through the same thing that you were, or was telling me this story and you knew the context? And literally it would be like a no-brainer. I'd be like, no, never. And she would always ask me, like, why would you say it about yourself then? And like, that really always stuck with me because we always tend to hold ourselves to this higher, unrealistic standard. And we don't even realize that in this lifetime, like, we truly are the only people that we will always have. Like, I know, like, it's always going to be me no matter what. And so if I'm going to live in this body, if I'm going to live this life, I need to be the nicest person to me. Like, Julia needs to love Julia, and you need to love you just as much as you love the people that you love most. And one way we can really practice that is by combating negative self-talk. And you may think I'm being super nitpicky, but it's in every little thing. The rule of thumb in managing negative self-talk is to ask yourself, if I want to say this to my best friend, why am I saying it to me? If I would not say this to my best friend, why am I saying it to me? Why am I picking on myself? Why am I saying that I'm not good at X, Y, and Z? Why am I being mean to myself? You need to be your own cheerleader because you are the only person that's going to go with you throughout all of the different periods of your life. And when you do that, it creates this unstoppable mindset. See, the thing is, you have so much power. You get to control the way that you talk to yourself. You get to control the choices that you make. And so when you begin to do that, when you actually begin to take action and put these things into power, you begin to unlock even more power because you see the changes, you feel the changes. I guarantee you that when you start being nicer to yourself, your head naturally becomes higher, your strut becomes more sexy, you become more enthralled in who you are because you're embracing who you are. And that's a beautiful feeling to have. Everyone deserves to have that feeling. But in order to get there, you have to do something about it. So I don't want to hear any more negativity coming from you. I only want to hear truth and I want to hear positivity. If you're not good at something, I don't want to hear, oh, I'm not good at this and I'm a failure. No, I'm not good at it yet. We talked about the power of yet in our last video. There are so many different things that you can say than to say it in a way where you put yourself down. If you're not good at something and you don't want to say you're not good at it yet, you can say you're a work in progress. There are literally so many different ways to filter that. When you start to shut down that inner critic, I promise you, you will be so much happier because when you stop criticizing every single move that you make and comparing it to someone else that you don't even know. And that's the funny part. We don't even know half of the people's true lives that we compare ourselves to. We know a portion of them. But when you shut that inner critic down, you're making room for positivity. And that's another point. In order to stop comparison, we need to also surround ourselves with people who bring out the best in us, who highlight the good in us, who highlight the authenticity in ourselves. Don't spend your time with people who nitpick you. Don't spend your time with people who bring you down intentionally or purposely. Don't spend your time with people who maybe don't necessarily intentionally bring you down, but when you go home, you have to think about, wait, that was shady. Why did they say that like that? Or why do I feel, low when before I hung out with them, I was good? Those are signs that the people that you're hanging out with are bringing down your energy, and we don't want to be around that. We also want to shift the way that we perceive the world, right? I don't know about you, but I know that if I'm going out with a mindset that, I'm already negative and I'm complaining about things, having a positive mindset is the key to truly being in your full power. Because think about all of the things that we tend to complain about. We tend to complain about things that are so out of our control that complaining isn't going to change anything. But when we're positive and when we don't even focus on the things that we don't have control over, when we focus on just making the best out of the situations that we're put in, that's when the best happens. I received this compliment the other day. It was such a beautiful compliment, and it was actually given to me by my mom. And it said, you can put a good person in a bad situation and they'll do good things. You can put a bad person in a good situation and they'll be better. Or you can put a great person in any situation and they'll impact the lives of everyone around them. You want to be that third person. You want to be that third person. You want to be the person who truly brings out the best in any situation, the person who can literally use alchemy and transform any situation that they're in to work for them, to create something that maybe no one else sees, but you see it. And so, in order to do that, you have to live your truth. You have to live your life and you have to stop comparing. You have to truly be your own influence. And I know this takes courage, but every single influencer out there, the ones that we see on social media and the ones that exist in our everyday lives, are courageous and are leaders. And leading doesn't always mean doing what's already laid out for us. It means creating your own path. And I guarantee you that when you start to do it, you won't want to stop. I hope that you all found something in this video that you can take with you. I hope that you found peace and some inner wisdom. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Please leave me some comments. Come on, I want to hear exactly what you're trying to manifest and how it's going. And please let me know if there's anything else that you want to talk about. I wish you all nothing but the best, and I hope that all of your manifestations come into fruition. Bye.